2 Samuel 11 1-27, Through the Bible. Chapter 11. Theme, David's two great sins. We have now come to the second and last section of the book of 2 Samuel, which I have labeled, The Troubles of David. We have seen the triumphs of David in the first section. Under the blessing of God, David has become one of the great kings of the earth. However, the sin recorded in this chapter places David under the judgment of God. From here on David will have trouble. His life will be a series of heartbreaks. This sin causes the enemies of God to blaspheme, until this day. Leering and suggestive, they exclaim, "This is the man after God's own heart." The sin of David stands out like a tar baby in a field of snow, like a blackberry in a bowl of cream. It may cause us to miss the greatness of the man. Remember that sin was the exception in David's life, not the pattern of it. The Word of God does not play down the sin of David. It does not whitewash the man. God doesn't say it is not sin. God is going to call it sin, and David will be punished for it. And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab, and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. 2 Samuel 11:1. It was the time of the year when kings went forth to war. In other words, in that day the nations had an open season on each other like we do today on birds and animals. At a certain season you can shoot them, at other seasons you cannot. But, after all, isn't that true even in modern warfare today? During the monsoons in Vietnam, the war came to a standstill because they got bogged down in the swamps, and the rain kept the planes out of the air. After the monsoons let up, the war was on again. The approach to war in David's day may have been a great deal more modern than we think. The unfortunate thing about the two world wars is that the greatest suffering was caused by the winter weather rather than by the enemy, but they attempted to carry on the fighting. At least in David's day there was a season for warfare. Maybe they were a little more civilized than we are. At least they recognized a time when they could enjoy comparative peace. Now David sent Joab and the army to fight the children of Ammon. David did not go with them. Instead he tarried at Jerusalem. That was unlike David. Why did he stay? I have only a suggestion to make. After David built his palace he found it very comfortable. It was quite different from the cave of Adullam where he had spent his youth. His palace was a place of luxury and comfort. Also David loved Mount Zion and wanted to stay around that place. Prosperity is one of the things that has trapped so many men and women. Our great comfort has become a curse in our nation. David tarried in Jerusalem. That was his first mistake. He should have gone to war with his men. And it came to pass in an evening tide, that David arose from off his bed, and walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. 2 Samuel 11:2. In that day the roof was the place where people spent their evenings. They had no front porches or patios in the rear of their homes. Even today the old city of Jerusalem is very compact, and the flat roof is the place where the family gathers. David went up to the roof of his palace and walked back and forth, apparently a little nervous. I suppose he had a great many problems on his mind. His men were in the field fighting and it may be that his conscience was bothering him. As he walked, he looked around and saw this woman bathing on the roof of her home. Although it was David's sin, God put the blame right on David. It seems that Bathsheba was a contributing factor. She could have been a little bit more modest. At the risk of sounding like a prude, let me say we are living in a day when women's dress has become a great temptation to men. I wonder how many women, even Christian women, realize what they are doing when they wear certain types of apparel. I have attended services in many churches in which the soloist would get up and carry you to the gates of heaven. Then I have seen her sit down and carry you to the gates of hell. It is my opinion that this woman Bathsheba was partially guilty. What was she doing bathing in public? When I say public, certainly David was able to see her from his palace. I wonder if she thought there was a chance that David might see her, and she was purposely bathing on the roof. And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" 2 Samuel 11:3. Uriah was actually a foreigner. And David sent messengers, and took her, and she came in unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house, 2 Samuel 11:4. This is the ugly story, and it is put in plain and simple language so that we cannot miss the point. If David had been out in the field with his men, this would never have happened. If Bathsheba had taken her bath inside her house, this would not have happened. And the woman conceived, and sent and told David, and said, I am with child, 2 Samuel 11:5. David has a real problem. What is he going to do? Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, is one of David's mighty men. He is one of David's loyal followers. And David sent to Joab, saying, Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered, 2 Samuel 11:6-7. David pretended that he had brought Uriah back from the war for consultation to find out how the war was going. And David said to Uriah, Go down to thy house, and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king, 2 Samuel 11:8. David is doing everything he can, in this particular instance, to try and absolve himself of any guilt. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house, 2 Samuel 11:9. Uriah slept at the door of the king's house. At a time of war this man would not go to his own home. This really surprised David. Also it was a rebuke to David, who was enjoying the luxury of his palace. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, Camest thou not from the journey? Why then didst thou not go down unto thine house? 2 Samuel 11:10. You can see that David is trying to get Uriah in the position where David will not be blamed for the pregnancy. And Uriah said unto David, The ark, and Israel, and Judah, abide in tents, and my lord Joab, and the servants of my lord, are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into mine house, to eat and to drink, and to lie with my wife? As thou livest, and as thy soul liveth, I will not do this thing. 2 Samuel 11:11. Uriah was a great man. Although he was a foreigner, he was loyal to Israel. That made David's double sin all the greater. Uriah said, The army and my commander are out in the field. They are in danger. I am not about to come back home and enjoy luxury and comfort. And David said to Uriah, Tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day, and the morrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk, and at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord, but went not down to his house. 2 Samuel 11:12-13. Now David tries something else to trick Uriah into going home. David gets Uriah drunk. Yet the man still did not go home. And it came to pass in the morning, that David wrote a letter to Joab, and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter, saying, Set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten, and die. 2 Samuel 11:14-15. In my judgment this is the worst part of David's sin. He deliberately plotted the murder of Uriah. This is inexcusable. The Word of God has a record of what David did. God did not cover it up, he brought it right out in the open. These are the facts. David is guilty. And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah unto a place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out, and fought with Joab, and there fell some of the people of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. 2 Samuel 11:16-17. This chills your blood, does it not? Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, When thou hast made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, and if so be that the king's wrath arise, and he say unto thee, Wherefore approached ye so nigh unto the city when ye did fight? Knew ye not that they would shoot from the wall? 2 Samuel 11:18-20. Joab's anticipation of David's reaction may be a cover-up to hide from the messenger the true significance of the message. Who smote Abimelech the son of Jerubbesheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of a millstone upon him from the wall, that he died in Thebez? Why went ye nigh the wall? Then say thou, Thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So the messenger went, and came and showed David all that Joab had sent him for. And the messenger said unto David, Surely the men prevailed against us, and came out unto us into the field, and we were upon them even unto the entering of the gate. And the shooters shot from off the wall upon thy servants, and some of the king's servants be dead, and thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Then David said unto the messenger, Thus shalt thou say unto Joab, Let not this thing displease thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as another. Make thy battle more strong against the city, and overthrow it, and encourage thou him. 2 Samuel 11:21-25. This is very pious talk from David. Aren't you ashamed of him? He is a real sinner, friend. He has done an awful thing. What should be done to him? We shall see that God is going to punish him. And when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the mourning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife, and bare him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. 2 Samuel 11:26-27. The thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Don't miss that. David did not get by with his sin. Up to this point in his life David has had many triumphs, but from now on, to his dying day, he will have trouble. May I say to you, Christian friend, that you can sin. Someone asked me, can a Christian get drunk? I replied, yes, a Christian can get drunk. This person was shocked, but then he asked, can he get by with it? That is where the rub comes. The man of the world can get by with it. The Lord does not whip the devil's children. But he sure takes his own children to the woodshed. Will you take it from one who has been to the woodshed? I happen to know that you cannot get by with sin. David did not get by with it. The thing he did displeased the Lord. When a thing displeases the Lord, friend, he is going to do something about it. David thinks he has gotten by with his sin, although there are a few people who know the facts. Joab, David's captain, knows the facts. A few of David's intimate counselors in Jerusalem who brought Bathsheba to the palace know the facts. Beyond that, no one knows, and the lips of these men are closed. They would not dare talk. David, however, wonders as he sits on his throne and looks around him. When David held court, there were probably 200 people around him, and he undoubtedly looked into each face and silently asked himself, do they know? After a time David probably sat back in satisfaction and said to himself, well, I got by with it. Nobody knows. My friend, whether it was known in Jerusalem or not, David's secret sin and our secret sins are open before God. Someone has put it this way, secret sin on earth is open scandal in heaven. God knows all about what we do.